I'd like to talk for just a minute about something I think is really quite important. You know, the word kundalini is kind of like a everyday term today. When I was younger, you never heard of the word kundalini. I mean, it was something very esoteric and nobody ever discussed it. And today people flippantly use the word for, you know, whatever. And uh, something happened today which is very interesting regarding kundalini. One of my students got an email from somebody telling him about these horrible kundalini experiences he had when he was younger. You know, something about his brain and, really terrible stuff. And, the student got in touch with me and to me, it was very indicative of what happens to people when they mess around with kundalini and they don't have any real training. They haven't the capacity, to stay focused in the third chakra where there's the real power and the rootedness that can deal with kundalini. They never learned how to do it, and yet they mess around with kundalini. They read books, they read about it, and they do exercises that are completely outside their control and can create a lot of problems for people. And when I read what this guy wrote, it was very indicative of this. I mean, it's one of the reasons why drugs are very dangerous, you know? I mean, drugs activate kundalini and they can give you kundalini experience. They certainly did to me when I was younger, but I had no training. I had no capacity to stay focused. I had no real development of chi inside myself. I had no ability to keep my attention focused below the navel. And I remember those drugs that I did, they almost burned me out alive. They probably would have killed me if I would have continued doing them. But the kundalini experiences were really powerful. And I must admit, they gave me my first insight into how profound how profound spiritual. What's going on, Tony?
It looks like it's Chi Core's audio is echoing.
Well, whoever's doing that, please stop it. It gave me a deep indication of how dangerous drugs were and that I really had to stay away from them because they do waste you. They destroy your inner life. They eat away the cells. They eat away your brain and they activate kundalini, which is so powerful that it can ream a person out inside unless they have training. And it's why I keep repeating this over and over again. We're dealing with primal forces that are really powerful. Life is very powerful. We need to be rooted in order to deal with our karma, with life, with the complexities of life, the tensions of life, the whole external world, this whole world of Maya, that controls the lives of so many people because they're not focused inside themselves. Spirit, God is another energy it's infinite. It's the fountainhead of all creative energy. And when you draw that energy into your system, it can burn you up. It's too strong. It's like, I always say in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna reveals himself to Arjuna, it's as if the light of 1,000 suns suddenly appeared in the sky. This is, not not kindergarten energy. This is energy of incredible intensity and incredible power. And we need to have the inner strength to deal with all these things. And then you take kundalini also, which is a powerful energy. And people putz around with these things. They read a book and they try experimenting with themselves, and it's very dangerous. And then you get feedback from people, well, my brain almost burned away. I was crippled for 6 months, all kinds of crap that comes back from, and then they blame it on kundalini. They don't blame it on their own stupidity, which is messing with forces of energy that are too strong to mess with unless you have the strength inside yourself to be able to support those experiences. And it's the reason why Rudy taught this meditation from the foundation up. The first thing he ever told me was, get your mind focused. You got to get your mind focused below the navel. You got to build that chakra below the navel, because that is the source of your power and strength. That's going to enable you to deal with everything that manifests, in the practicing of the meditation that he teaches. So, I hear people talk about all this stuff, and it's just, and it's all just lip service bullshit, unless there's really the strength inside to be able to allow the kundalini experience to truly be a pathway to enlightenment. And that's what it is. And just imagine in your mind how powerful that is. Something that's a pathway to enlightenment. How strong a person has to be in themselves. How grounded they have to be inside themselves in order to really, navigate that pathway, or not even navigate, get on that path to enlightenment. So when I got this email today, it was very, it really brought up a lot of the stuff to me about how people need to learn what they're doing in order to build a system inside that is strong enough to attain a state of enlightenment. And without that kind of an inner life, all these things are too powerful. And I'm not doing this to scare anybody. I'm doing this to tell you how important it is to truly, seriously take the inner work that you have to do on yourself to grow. And if you're seriously interested in spiritual enlightenment, then you got to put in all the stones that will build the pyramid. You don't start from the third eye, you got to start from the base. It has to be a foundation that is built to where the pyramid finally manifests in its completed form. In many ways, we are the pyramids, and we have to learn how to build that kind of inner life. So, I'm just saying this because it came up today, and really almost just before meditation class, I got this email, maybe a couple hours before meditation class. And I want to relay this to all of you because I can't tell you how significant this is and how important it is to build that pyramid, to build that stupa, the internal stupa, which really becomes, a pathway to enlightenment. Brick by brick. Don't start with some fantasy about the completed pyramid, It has to go in brick by brick. We have to build ourselves brick by brick. And all the rest of it, honestly, it's just a lot of spacey stuff. And so many people get swept away in all that space cadet kind of spirituality that, I never understood. Even before I met Rudy, I didn't understand that. I knew before I met Rudy, I needed somebody like Rudy. I knew this, who could really train me in how to build an inner life that was strong enough to have a spiritual life. I mean, with all the swamis and rishis and rabbis and priests that I used to go to, it was all in search of somebody like Rudy who truly had, the experience, the wisdom, the know-how, to help somebody truly grow and develop a system inside that will enable them to have a spiritual life. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I would like to ask a question. I know you probably said it 1,000 times, but
I could say
most of the
1,001. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go
I find it in most of my classes with you or with Ellie in Israel, I found it hard to keep focus below the navel for more than 10 seconds. Sometimes I do better. But how do you manage to, try to stay even more focused, because it just implicates my life after the class. I don't feel focused as I want to be.
Let me ask you a question. I once went to Carnegie Hall to see a piano concert by, I think it was Vladimir Horowitz, a very master, the piano. And he took one finger and hit a note, and it filled the entire concert hall. And I said, how does he do that? How does he do it? Practice. 20 years of sitting in front of a piano 9 hours a day, mastering the piano, mastering the craft of the piano so that one finger could fill the entire music hall. This is no different. And this is even more difficult because we're dealing with the one person, who's the most difficult person to master on the planet Earth, and that's ourselves. So it takes work, it takes time, it takes discipline, it takes truly mastering oneself to learn how to do what you're asking. It doesn't just come because you take a class, it takes time to, and the person you need to get past is yourself. The mind, the emotions, the physical tensions, all that stuff that distracts us all the time and keeps us from being centered. And as you slowly master your inner life, then it gets clear how to be, you just automatically stay centered there, you don't have to even, you're just there, you have mastered the credo. It's like one finger and the whole concert hall fills with music. One little breath and you fill with Shakti. But you have to master it. And that's your work. It's my work. It's everybody's work who's in this class, learning to master this. And it takes time. Time becomes your best friend when you use it consciously. If not, it's like one of your worst enemies, the whole fear of getting old and dying and all of that neurosis that wrecks the whole chemistry of human beings, it disappears. And with one finger, one breath, right into that chakra, and the whole system just fills up with Shakti. You can arrive at that place. Sometimes I do this class, I take one deep breath in the whole class. And the class is just resounding with Shakti, energy that's nurturing me and everybody that's in it. It's becoming a master of the craft. I hope that's clear, and then have patience with yourself. It's not going to happen. Rudy once told me it takes 7 years of studying with a teacher to know whether or not you're on the right path. 7 years, he told me, of studying with a teacher, just to know that. Does anyone else have a question you would like to I mean, this is very powerful stuff, and I'm not here to intimidate anyone. I'm here to help, hopefully guide everybody into a really, profound use of this meditation to build an inner life. And I've been doing it a very long time, and I'm still doing it. I'm still using it every day to evolve and to grow. I watched Rudy, who I never met anyone quite like Rudy, the kind of energy he had, using it every day to evolve and to grow. He used to love when students would come into his store. He would sit and do his meditation with them. I hope this is clear to all of you. I'm not here to crack a whip. I'm here to try and help people, understand that really how profound this is, this thing we do, and then to use it in their life and to have patience with themselves. You're not going to master this in 40 classes, 20 classes. It takes time. It takes time for a bottle of wine, for the bouquet to become delicious. It takes time for an apple to ripen on a tree. It takes time when you're pregnant to have a child. You can't have a child in a month. You're not going to have a child. You're going to have a miscarriage. You have to give things the time it takes to evolve, mature, and come into fruition.
Stuart,
Yes.
can you talk about in our everyday lives when we come across patterns that we want to break, when we find ourselves in the middle of something, besides bringing the awareness to that second chakra, do you do the breathing exercise as well?
Well, look, when I come up against, tense and difficult, the first thing that happens is I make sure my mind is below the navel. Because if I'm focused there, I can deal with anything. If I'm in my emotions, if I'm in my head, if I'm in all those tensions, the fear, the anxiety of something, you can't deal with it. But if there's harmony and balance, look, it's the whole secret of the martial arts. All these guys that flip people around and break bricks with their hand, it's all chi that's doing it. It's all their capacity to stay focused in the hara. And that gives them the ability to be completely in tune with whatever's going on around them. So this is no different. Being focused in the hara enables you to deal with just about anything that will manifest in your life. Once you lose your focus, forget about it, then life will deal with you. And it's almost an impossibility to deal with somebody else's tension unless you scream louder than they do. And then everybody just completely drains themselves of energy, drains themselves dry. So just try that. And yes, we all run into things that are impossible, unbelievable, certain kinds of logic in the world that drive everybody crazy, and, get centered, absorb it, dissolve it in yourself, and don't allow that kind of stuff to suck all your energy out of you. And to be, look, just to be honest about this, you almost need things like this to happen in your life, like you just described, Eva, because we have to be reminded we haven't arrived yet. And there's still more work that we need to do on ourselves. We can't sequester ourselves in little glass houses and think that by protecting ourselves from negative situations, that we're going to grow. We don't. By opening and embracing life and allowing many things to come in and teach us, it's just a constant reminder we haven't arrived yet. We still have work to do on ourselves. It's the way God, the universe, is teaching us that we still have work to do on ourselves.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? So it used to drive me crazy when I was younger, when I was running that ashram in Texas, watching people hiding out in these situations, running. And when I moved back to New York, I said, I'll never do that again, ever. People come, there's meditation, and they go home. And they have to deal with and build their lives. And not use the meditation as a kind of womb in which they can hide out. And people do this, all the time in many different ways. They're looking for safety zones that they can live in that protect them against life. And all they're doing is damage to themselves, Setting up little guardrails around them to keep life out. It doesn't work. Life always comes in, no matter where you are, what you're doing. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart, because I was going to ask something about the intensity of the more intense challenge, or like sometimes very simple. I could take one breath in and be down in the one point, and then there are times when it's so intense. So you say we have more work to do is the answer, but is there a difference or something about that very intense where it's almost unbearable or unable to get?
Well, look, Wendy, there are things in life that happen to us that remind us we're not quite ready for these things. So, a good general knows how to retreat. Retreat. Look, I'm not ready for this. Okay, I got to get stronger to be able to deal with that kind of intensity. I used to have this when I first started out my business in Texas. I was buying, antique wrenches and wagon wheels and selling things for $10 and, $20, and slowly it worked up to where, things that used to intimidate, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, I was intimidated by back then, no longer intimidated me. I worked up to it where it became just part of the day, part of doing my life. You understand? But if I would have, when I first started out, tried to buy something that, it would have freaked me out. I would have gone running to the hills. I said, Stuart, back off and do what you can do and grow and get more open to the ability to do bigger things and more intense things in life. You understand what I'm saying? So
It's very helpful.
I'll repeat it. A good general knows when to retreat. We sometimes have to retreat, back off. I'm not ready for this yet. I will get stronger, and one day I will be ready for this. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. There'll be class tomorrow evening. I hope they all show up, and God bless you all. And again, as I always end these classes, in all humility, thank you. These
Thank
classes
you, Stuart.
are major steps in my life, and I hopefully they're steps in your life. So God bless you all, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart. Good night.
Good night.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stuart.